have all of us together, Jeremy, once again rocking the Santa hat, and we are here to bring you a wonderful show about the league's worst team, the New Orleans Pelicans. So tune in.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson.
And Holiday, the dribble penetration. So tough going to the goal. High above the rim to rip it down.
Hello, Mason and Jeremy. Before we dive deep into the depressing stuff, how were your holidays, my friends?
Well, I went to New Orleans and you guys just left.
That's right. We got away.
Oh man, it was fun. Good time with family though. Caught one Pels game last Saturday. I don't remember. The one that one of the losses.
One of
they all blend together at this point.
Yeah.
It was Knicks game. Yeah, that's the game I was at.
Oh man.
How about you guys?
Good. Thank you, Poe. Welcome, and thank you, F Funky. Welcome as well. Happy holidays to y'all. I'm good. I went to Virginia, had a good time there. It was a lot colder than it was in New Orleans, so a little bit new, a little bit unpleasant, but I got used to it. Had a good time overall in Virginia. Jeremy, where were you?
I've been everywhere, man. But basically, South Carolina and parts of Georgia. Spent my Christmas in South Carolina, and my anniversary was the next day in Savannah, Georgia. So
congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you guys. Now that we got the good stuff out the way, sheesh. The more things change, the more they stay the same around these parts.
Let's kick it off. So a few things have happened in the last few weeks, and one of the things that hasn't happened yet is a Pelican win. The Pelicans have been on a homestand, and they've been getting their butts kicked left and right, although they did have a pretty close game there against Denver, and then things got out of hand pretty quickly against some of these other teams, and I think this last game that they played against the Grizzlies looked okay for a little bit, and then more of the same happened. Let's dive right into it. 5-27. I think this is their worst start since the 04-05 season. And as a franchise, friend of the show, Isaac Popper, he I think told me there's only been 33 teams in NBA history to start 5-26. So now that they're 5-27, I would imagine that circle is a little bit smaller. There was only 4 such teams since 2015 to achieve this level of terribleness. Just this historic levels of losing. And
was it this record or worse?
This record or worse? Yeah, to tie this start, basically to tie this. So 5-26 to start. In your first 31 games.
It feels bad. It doesn't feel like and how many in the last how many years you said? Sorry.
And since 2015, there's only been 4 teams.
God. That blows my mind, man. That's crazy.
We
Let's go.
We dropped an episode over a month ago that said embarrassing. Little did we know. Yo, those were the good times. Oh man.
Okay, so look, I think to get right into it, the topic that I think a lot of folks want to touch on, and it's relevant to something that's happened this week, is what kind of changes do the Pelicans need to make, and to what degree do they need to make, and to what quickness do they need to happen. Starting us off, the Kings fired Mike Brown. The Kings were in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, not a 5-27 streak. They were just in the middle of the 5-game losing streak, which culminated in a really embarrassing loss to the Detroit Pistons, where the Kings' best player, all-star, Rich Paul client, De'Aaron Fox, fouls Jaden Ivey on a 3-point attempt. The Pistons were down 3 at the end of the game. The only way for the Kings to lose that game in regulation would be through a 4-point play. Mike Brown went on to the post-game press conference, said that he instructed the players to foul while they were up 3 instead of players let off 8 dribbles. He instructed the players, if you're unable to foul, make sure you don't get a 3 off. Make sure you stay home. Make sure there's no one in any kind of help situation. And I think what was a flashback to the Eric Bledsoe moment in MSG that us Pelican fans have either seared into our brains or just completely washed away due to the trauma. They fouled the 3-point shooter.
Not only did he foul him, he grabbed him by the shoulder and said, "Come here, take that. You foul up 3 people. I don't like y'all. I'm against it." And I'm so happy it backfired on the Kings. You just don't know.
Oh my God. So it was bad. The foul was bad. Obviously, Mike Brown was pissed. I don't think he told a single lie. I also don't think he was like wrong in anything, in any of the criticisms. Like, I don't think he like berated Fox or threw him under the bus. I think the Stan Van Gundy conference was a little bit different. They're very similar. You guys should go back and watch that press conference.
I remember he was adamant. We told him in the huddle, do not. Why would you close out on the drive? We told him to foul up 3 and contest a 3-point shot. I remember that.
Remember it. So the Stan Van Gundy one was bad. So Mike Brown, obviously. So the next day, the Kings go have a full practice. They let Mike Brown talk to the media. They conduct a whole practice, and then on the way to the airport, this dude gets fired. Just like, obviously, it prompted a series of responses from NBA head coaches. Mike Malone called them classless and pointed fingers at Vivek ownership. Again, this is all very relevant stuff to what all the fans here in our chat and on Twitter have been trying to draw a line to with the Pelicans. So Mike Malone pointed the finger to ownership, and Vivek said, not to be surprised. That guy did the same thing to me. JB Bickerstaff echoed a lot of the same sentiments. Steve Kerr, respected head coaches around the league were like, man, this is Bush League. You guys should not have done it this way. So as I'm building us up into the Pelicans, just want to get that quick Kings take of yours. What are your thoughts on how all that went down?
Just, you don't do it like that, man. The firing, not firing. I put it in the Discord. You guys were like 469 and 800 between the Rick Adelman dismissal and the Mike Brown hire. I understand having expectations because you finally were winning for the first time in a decade and a half. But if you're going to fire him, you want to fire him. That's not my place to say. I don't think it was his fault. But you don't do it like that, man. You don't let him go through the full practice. You let him go. You tell him early in the morning, hey, we're going to go our separate ways. You don't have him do a press conference after practice, run through a full practice. That's foul, man. That's absolutely foul.
And this team wasn't bad. Like, that's the part that like pisses me off most, because like they're a bad clutch team this year, which I think I would argue there's a decent amount of luck that goes into that clutch, net rating. But on the whole, they're a slightly above average team. And look, I get it. You added DeRozan. We've talked a lot about how that changes the team shot profile. But they've been a top 10 offense, this season. Like, overall, they've been a slightly positive net rating overall. And so, like, it's early. It's premature to do it like that. That I think is very, very clear. I think
Cleveland Glass had them. Cleveland Glass has them the 9th at the day of the firing. They were the 9th best offense, the 15th best defense with Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk in the starting lineup, and making Keegan Murray play the 4. That team was the top half of the NBA defense with a coach who is a defensive savant, and you fire him. So like Pope said in the chat, Coach of the Year just 2 years ago, lauded for bringing those guys back to respectability, and you fire them for
shout out
happiness and what else he Christie got up there.
Okay, well, I want to get to Doug Christie's in a second. A couple of things which I think are a little bit organic. First of all, uh, Mr. Tennessee, the Discord link. This is our first chance to plug this organically. Is for subscribers, paid subscribers of the Substack. So if you subscribe to the In the Know Substack as a paid subscriber, you'll get a little link, and we'll get you set up. In my opinion, it's the best place to discuss Pelicans in any capacity.
Yep.
So that's a little still self promotion there. However, speaking of the Discord, shout out Gabe, who does fantastic work with all the bots and the charts. He actually posted that the Kings, if you look at their metrics, they're like actually like really good when you look at their defensive stuff, and it should surprise you because of their defensive personnel, which is completely lacking. They don't have much size on the perimeter. They don't have, like you said, the Keegan Murray is like basically the guy who defends stuff. Keon Ellis was going to be one of those guys. He doesn't even get into the rotation all that much. Yeah, bad times there for the Kings. I don't think, it's one of those things where we kind of saw it with the AD situation. That situation could have played out in a number of different ways for the Pelicans. When AD signed with Clutch, started subtly applying pressure. They had that fateful meeting. The Kings decided they're going to address this first and foremost by firing the head coach. That was where they're going to lay the blame at. And then I think they're going to try to make some trades moving forward. De'Aaron Fox had a very interesting comment the game after the Kings played the Lakers. And someone asked him, like, do you feel guilty about what happened? And I'm paraphrasing here, so please forgive me. So one of the things he said, well, Mike Brown's still going to get paid. The second thing, he said guilt isn't the word I'd use. The second thing he said, like, we all just got to be better, whether that's players on this roster or players that are not on this roster.
Yes.
Just like, dude, who do you think you are?
Man? Who are you?
How many playoff series have you won?
Hey, man, that is real Brandon Ingram after the Phoenix Suns series with those type of comments, man. Like, man, I understand you've done something. You've proven yourself that you can do this on a big stage. However, it still was a first round loss, dog. You understand this?
Yeah. So, okay, I think we've kind of gotten the picture there with the Kings. Disappointed season. They had expectations, mostly healthy, were unable to perform, suffered in the clutch, which is largely variance because this is the same head coach that had them performing fantastically in the clutch for 2 consecutive years. They had a clutch player of the year winner on their team. What happened to him?
They got 2. They have 2.
2. What happened there? I don't think, that a lot of clutch stuff can be coaching. A lot of clutch stuff can just be variance and luck and just shots going in and out. It's so hard to parse through. And I think we're going to get into that on the Pelican side, who obviously have not been great in the clutch, but they really haven't even had any clutch games to play if we really want to think about it. So the Kings made this drastic change. Let's talk about the Pelicans. We said a month ago, it was embarrassing. What happened in Golden State, the way they lost those games, the way they played there, it was embarrassing. What happened in subsequent games, it was embarrassing, right? Fast forward to now where they are 5-27. They have got back a number of guys. Obviously, they're missing the 2 best players, right? They're missing Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, but they've had lineup stability from the starting lineup for a number of games now, and that starting lineup is getting their butts kicked every single night. It is a murder in the plus minus when you look at that group specifically, right? And then not only are the Pelicans losing, they're losing double digits. Like, it is carnage when you look at their point differential. So I'm going on record officially. It's time. It's time, Pelicans. It is time to make the change. Now, I think the panel here is going to discuss the merits of actually making the change now versus making it later. Let's debate that in a second. I want to finish my spiel here. The players are checked out. You can see it. When I see Herb Jones not make a second effort contest on a play, when I see guys like Trey Murphy who are just like, you know what, this is someone else's problem sometimes. When I see CJ McCollum taking over the offense without any regard for anything other than getting his shots up. When I see all these things going down, it's clear that the players are just trying to get through the game, doing the best they can, and they're no longer responding to the coach. Willie was brought in to be a leader of players, someone that can coalesce the locker, someone that was distinct from the way Stan was, who alienated the players. He was supposed to be the guy that brought them together, right? It wasn't that he was this masterful tactician or some kind of X's and O's genius. I think the idea was there's a lot of upside for him to grow into that. We're going to furnish him with a lot of high level assistance to facilitate that. But he was supposed to be the guy that guys rallied behind. And now that's no longer happening. The Pelicans are getting their butts kicked over and over again. I think it's time to make a change. Let me kick it to the panel. Let me get off my monologue. Where are you guys at?
I want Mason to go first. I'm
in the same spot. I think it's time. I'm with you all the way that the team seems checked out. And like I think the thing that exemplifies that most to me recently is that I haven't looked at the numbers on this. I'm speaking more anecdotally, but the first half Pelicans and the second half Pelicans look like two entirely different basketball teams a lot of times. I feel like they'll hang around with talent. Sounds kind of crazy given the guys that are injured, but you mentioned it. They've got starting lineup continuity. Those are four talented players, and then a rookie who's been outplaying anyone's expectations. That it's not a playoff starting lineup without BI and Zion, but it should be better than it has been. As you noted, the net rating is terrible. So I looked at Cleaning the Glass, second worst in the league with at least 300 possessions behind the Portland Trailblazers lineup. And so that's kind of borderline unacceptable. And I can't help but feel like they're not hearing anything anymore. And look, I guess part of it is the record, right? It's not all Willie Green's fault here. I mean, if I was 5-27 and I knew right now, playoffs aren't going to happen, that also weighs on you. It's not just the coach. We're not hearing the coach anymore. Am I going to bust my ass to win our sixth game of the season and climb to 21 games under 500 when we're not even halfway through the season? I don't know, especially when, guys are playing for their next contract. You mentioned CJ, trying to get numbers. Like he's been a team first guy and doing all the right things necessary to help the team win. So this is not me bashing on CJ. It's me saying when push comes to shove and clearly the season is not going the right direction, I would look out for myself. And I'm not saying what he's doing is doing that, but go get your shots, get your points, get your money. I mean, so I don't want to put it squarely on Willie, but I agree. It's time. Go ahead, Jeremy.
There was a play in the Houston game, and Brandon Boston got GTA'd by Jalen Green in the arena, and no one said anything. Not a player, not a guy on the bench, not a guy in the stands. Everyone was indifferent about getting GTA'd on your own.
Wasn't even GTA'd.
He was on the sideline. He just took it from Brandon Boston, and I saw Trey's head just go. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like that. The episode is called Rock Bottom. That felt like rock bottom to me. Schmidt spoke on the lineup. They're negative 44 plus minus according to NBA.com. The Mason has talked about their second worst lineup, and they shouldn't be. They can't hit the broadside of a barn outside of Trey. CJ has a couple of games he goes off, but no one's really consistent. My man DeJounte, look, I can't be miserable all my life. He makes me laugh 5 times a game on things that should not make me laugh. And it's just the consistency is their mental mistakes. And if the coach can't rectify that situation, I don't understand why he's here. I don't want to go full De'Aaron. I don't want to be that callous. But I'll put it like this. At the beginning part of the season, I put to myself, I say, if there was a way that Willie could miss like 10 games just to see James Borrego do the job one way or the other. Don't want any ill will happen to Willie or whatnot. Just to see, just to have it out there. Well, you're 5-27 now, man. Doesn't matter if how it happens now. Just see if you got somebody on the bench, one way or the other. Might as well. I'm indifferent. Might as well. Just might as well, man.
Okay, so let's talk about the merits of just ripping the Band-Aid off now versus doing it later. So I think there are a couple of things to consider here. One, we got to consider Willie's contract. Willie, to my understanding, and this could be wrong, this could be out of date information. I don't know, but last I checked, he has 1.5 years left on his contract. The rest of the season plus 1 more year, right? That is also how long David Griffin has on his contract. One thing we know about this ownership group, and I want to be fair and point out it's not unique to just this ownership group. Many billionaires operate this way when they probably shouldn't, is that I don't think they're huge fans of paying multiple people to do one job and multiple people to not do that same job. What I'm trying to say here, and I kind of butchered that, is if they fire Willie, they're going to have to pay somebody else. And I don't think they're going to be huge fans of that. In their defense, they did it with Stan, and they did it a year into it. They just ate his whole contract, right? Obviously, it's happening over there on the Saints side right now. If we take the finances out of the picture, I think the argument to make the decision now would be you don't want bad habits to form and stay, and you don't want players to get resentful to a point where you can't get them back. There's a lot of young players on this team, and if dudes are all the way checked out, those habits can seep in. You don't want that, and you don't want your core guys, the Herb Jones, the Trey Murphys, and eventually Eves, those guys building resentment over what they feel like is honestly like they're not being done they're not being done any favors by the team, the coaches, and everyone else. So you don't want any of that stuff. I think, do you guys have any thoughts on now versus later?
So there was in the chat they were mentioning that if Willie goes, Griff should go, or Griff should retire and whatnot, right? So 2 of those back to back. Why not do the Jeff Bauer?
Get out of here, bro.
Do the Jeff Bauer, man.
Get out of here.
Hey, man, you made this mess. Come fix it. You're right. I don't want to pay nobody no extra money. You are absolutely correct. I don't want to give anybody a raise. You are absolutely right. Hey, my man's on the grand. Yo, Griff, come down here for a second. You see the seat right here? Courtside view, baby. It's right here. Take care of this.
You want Mickey Loomis coaching the Saints last week of the season?
Why not? Hey, man, the Saints will be playing on WYES, man. Don't get me started with them. Don't get me started with them, man. Griff can't manage a hot dog stand. That's crazy.
I guess I feel like the monetary piece is kind of like it's not moot. If you assume that Willie's gone after the season regardless, it's not a moot point, but it's kind of close because I mean, what is it? You're going to be you give the interim coach a little bit more money, and then that's it, and it's still kind of the same situation you would have at the end of the year. So I would hope that the financial aspect isn't coming into play unless they have some sort of misplaced belief that Willie can coach his way back into the job for next year. Which
like a sunk cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're never getting that money back. So what's more important to you now? Getting that money back, sitting through 82 plus however many games are left this season left of Willie, or is it more important for you to get the organization on a track that you're willing to go and perhaps get a look at some people on your bench? That's where I come back to is like, look, you fire Willie, like whether he's coaching or not, like that money's not going back in your pockets, right? Where you're getting your money is when David Griffin makes this trade and gets the reimbursement check from the league for $18 million, that's where you're getting your money back. And maybe if Griff is smart here, he can accrue some cash in deals as well. Teams can send like $5 to $6 million in cash these days. That is enough for 1 year's salary. That is it. That's how you get Willie's salary paid. Our good friend cash considerations. Think we can.
You said Griffin gonna buy his love. Money might not give us happiness, but it give me another year on the job.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, like, I think a few people have mentioned it here, but the best case outcome for the Pelicans this season is getting their way into a top 2 pick. Right? Like, at this point, I don't think anyone's under any illusion in that building too that they're going to make any sort of run. They're going to make any sort of run for the play-in, do anything like that. The best case outcome is you land yourself a top 2 pick. And I say top 2 specifically because I am a believer that this is a 2-star draft. And I'm not saying that there won't be other stars later down. There always are. There's always players that find themselves in an all-star game or better later on. I just think when you're looking at the prospect to prospect, like, there's 2 above everybody else, and that's Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper. And it'd be awesome to be in a position to get either one of those players. That's the best thing. So if Willie is doing an excellent job driving the tank wagon, do you really want to take his hands off the steering wheel? Do you really want to do that? No, I joke. I think a more serious question, and it's a twofold question here. Let's start with the first part of it. Is it worth getting a look at Borrego? Does that influence your decision whether to do it now versus the summer at all? Like, just to get those 3 months of Borrego.
Sure. Like, I wish I was more passionate about this. But I just can't anymore. We're 5-27, man. If you want to give him a shot, great. If you want to just have Willie take these L's on his ledger, fine. I made the joke about Griff, but you can do that too. However you want to ride this out, it's 5-27. I'm sorry, I don't have a stance on this about how this should go right now. I just don't.
Yeah. What I've seen from teams in this state going to the interim guy and making him a head coach is giving me pause to even to any of that. Say what you want about Coach O, but there was that contract, and then they got Dennis Allen and New Orleans, the Saints, and I do have a little bit of concern that if he does better than you expect, you kind of get stuck into a situation where should we make him the head coach? And so there might be better options out there. So I'm with Jay. It doesn't move me one way or the other. I think you've got to do something different. And I would like to see him with like the training wheels off. With what can he do? What else do we see new or more innovative with the offense that we maybe haven't seen for whatever reason with Willie? But I don't think right now I see Borrego as the guy who's going to be the next head coach of this team beyond the season. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Mr. Bodenheider, if I can just answer your question. The Hawks fired. I forgot who they fired, but they hired Nate McMillan mid-season, and they took that run to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't think it's going to happen here per se, the run, but the interim head coach bump with the emotions for a healthy roster is kind of real. It more often than not, that gives them it gives teams who are talented a little extra oomph.
Just don't hire Doc Rivers.
I mean, I ain't say that. Hey, hire Chris Finch. You're working for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They went out of the, everyone thought they was going to get the assistant. They went and got Chris Finch, and it has worked well for the most part.
So I think I kind of agree with John here, is that, like, you're not going to be able to evaluate Borrego if your end goal is trying to get the draft pick that you're trying to get. It's going to be a weird year. It's going to be a year where they're going to trade some of their key pieces. He's not going to, obviously, like, none of these interims some interims have had a training camp, but he wouldn't have had his training camp. And you're just trying to, I think Willie actually said it today when I asked him about lineups, and he's like, you're trying to learn how to fly the plane while it's in midair. and I think that's actually like a fair comparison.
Yeah.
And so like I don't think 4 months of Borrego are going to be useful evaluation stuff. If they wanted to do this, they probably should have given him a season or more. I am a believer that they should do a full-fledged coaching search in the summer, regardless of when this firing takes place. I don't think anyone should be promised anything. Like I don't think if they do this in the middle of the season, they should, automatically should go to Borrego and they lock him into a 2-year deal or something like that. I think they need a full-fledged coaching search, and that coaching search needs to happen after they reshape the roster, or concurrently. Those two things kind of need to go hand in hand. You can't hire a coach and then just give him a roster that's not that coach's style, and vice versa. Like, so to me, the summer is the cleanest way to do both of those things. Pick a direction of where you want to go with roster, pick a direction in what you want to do on the coaching side, and both of those things ideally should be pulling in the same direction, along with the front office's overall vision, which I think is what we can get into next, is the David Griffin aspect of this, because I think a lot of folks are rightfully concerned. Look, Griff is the one that made the bet on these two stars in Zion and Brandon, and they have been more unreliable than just about any duo in the league. He's the one that has ultimately put the team in this position and gave Willie this roster. He had Alvin, he had Stan, he's had Willie. I think a lot of people ask, should David Griffin be allowed to make the next hire? And I've been doing a lot of talking. I'll push that off to you guys.
A couple things. The Borrego point. He had his pick. He had multiple head coaching interviews last summer, and he didn't land a job. So I don't know if he has, he will have a pick of the litter if he, doesn't get the job this year. I would give him an interview if he's the interim, and I would evaluate that part and then give him any interview in the summer. But I don't think it'll be a lock that he gets it. As for Griff, like I said, I made the comment about the Jeff Bauer thing. He could talk about, the injuries and whatnot. And when he had out the roster, it went 49-33. You can talk about the fluke crunch time. Like, I think the Pelicans were fifth worst last year, an expected win-loss. When it came to cleaning the glass, they should have won a 52-win team. A lot of that was clutch issues. The stat was they were 0 in the fourth quarter when they trailed, so there was no really change up in the offense, even though they were losing. So he can actually throw it all on Willie and say, when they were healthy, when I had a 51 roster, my draft picks for the most part have been successful. So I can see him still having a job.
I want you to answer this question. You're playing the analyst. Should David Griffin get to hire the next coach?
Well, Stephen A. He should keep the job. Yes. He. I would not fire him right now.
Sell me on it.
Again, his draft history for the most part has been great. You found Misi. Like, Misi is really, for all the issues I may have with Jordan Hawkins, Misi is like a diamond in the rough. You found another one. You got the 2021 draft class. We are saying that the bones of the new era should be on the backs of Trey and Herb, and he should see it through. I would have him keep the job if I were ownership. I would give it a Griff.
Okay, Mason.
I'm out. I think. Schmidt, you've sold me over the time period. I know the conversations haven't really been about Griff specifically, but I think complacency around the roster, around the stars, and not, whether or not the argument was we don't have enough data to really understand if the stars fit together. If it was, regardless, we're still sitting here with the same guys on the roster, and we've actually taken the Brandon Ingram situation all the way to the end, and the asset value has gone to shit. And just beyond that, I hear the draft argument, and yet the organization, being specific here, the organization has done a great job with the draft. And yes, it ultimately falls on him to make those selections, but there are people doing the real work behind him to evaluate players and to sell him on those choices. So good on him for empowering the right people and making the right picks in most cases. That's not enough for me to say this guy should keep his job, because you have a bunch of guys who are injury prone as the guys who choose to lead this franchise, and the stars aligned last year, and what do you have to show for it? The 49 win season. It's just, even the good year when everything kind of fit, nothing crazy good happened. And so I don't think he's done enough. And again, it's not all one person's fault here. This is an organizational failure. There is ownership blame here too. And we said the same shit with Dell Demps. So we don't know what he was dealing with behind the scenes from an ownership perspective of what he could and could not do. We know it's better for Griff.
He could not do a lot. I can say that as a fact.
We know it's better than what Demps was dealing with, but we don't know how much better. And so there are things that he probably wanted to do that he couldn't do. And so I think that's worth mentioning. However, this is where we are as a franchise right now. And so I guess there's just not enough good to sell me on the fact that a wholesale change isn't needed.
I'm gonna go back to defending. I'm gonna get back to defending for a second. The three coaches. He didn't have three coaches. He was given one. He was
He chose to pick up Alvin's option.
He chose
to. Okay, fair enough. You're
gonna talk about this organization. You just talked about how we don't want to pay multiple coaches. We just talked about, all right.
For those who let me fill in the gap here, because we just had some communication that I don't think everyone else necessarily picked up. The implication here is Alvin got Griff the job by talking great things about him to ownership, and in return, Griff picked up his option. It was an equivalent exchange. The jobs basically came down between Danny Ferry and David Griffin, and Alvin, who had the ear of ownership, and went and said, yeah, Griff's the guy, you should do this. And they went with Griff, and Griff was like, thank you, good sir. He is about $5 million extra for doing that. Allegedly.
Gentry is a survivalist, man. I'm not even knocking it, but he's a survivalist. So that was one. And then the stand was an absolutely debacle. Honestly, at that time, if you would have told me Griff could have went with Stan, I would have had no issues with him. But that was his first real coach. And his second coach has 2 playoff appearances, 3 postseason appearances. He has barely had his number one player. That, I'm sorry, everyone in this chat, 43 people plus the 3 on here talking, we all would have picked Zion Williamson with number 1 overall. Let's be real here. No one's gonna. Ja has been amazing. You know, if you want to say he's been better than Zion, I'm not gonna fight you on that. No one was picking him 1. No one was. Between just the endorsements, the television games, the jersey sales, all those other factors, you were not picking anyone but Zion Williamson number 1 overall. You want to knock down on Griff, that's fine, but sure. So one terrible, awful coach in a pandemic year, and then a coach, all things considered, was fine. I would keep him on the job to give him one more coach. Now, again, any slippage, we tearing it all down. But I would give him one more shot at this.
So I've heard both of your arguments, and I think there's merits to both of them. I think sometimes the framing of should Griff get to hire this next guy misses the fact on I don't count Willie as a mistake or the wrong pick. I think coaches in the NBA have a shelf life.
Yep.
And that shelf life is often not very long. And I think Willie has reached his shelf life. Was it at a sooner date than they all would have hoped? We all would have hoped? Probably. Were there arguments to move on from Willie? prior to this year, I think they were, but I don't think they were as strong as, some fans would have wanted it. Probably were not as strong as like I may have wanted it. I think I would have been happy with the Willie Green change sooner. However, what Willie Green did was the franchise was going through a period of great turbulence post Stan Van Gundy, enduring Stan Van Gundy. And in the midst of that was Zion. All of the Zion drama. Is Zion going to sign the rookie extension? Is he going to take the qualifying offer? Why is he skipping out on workouts? Why is he not showing up? Oh no, he broke his foot in the summer and no one knew about it. There was so much stuff, so much negativity surrounding the organization, so much negativity surrounding the market, everything, right? And what David Griffin and the Pelicans needed was a stabilizing force, and they sought Willie because they thought he could do it. And I think Willie did it. I think the last 4 years, Willie has basically kept them drama free in terms of like cataclysmic dramas, right? There's been Zion stuff off the court that is in his personal life that I don't think Willie has anything to do with, right? But there's not been players being passive aggressive to the media. There's not been players being openly aggressive. Talking about the team, the organization.
Josh Hart said that he lost his love of basketball with playing for Stan Van Gundy. Zion, it was leaked. I won't say Zion leaked it. It was leaked that Zion was going to leave after he played those 61 games under Stan Van Gundy. Like I'm not even anti Stan Van Gundy, the coach, but there was a lot going on that year, and
I'll say it. I think the Stan Van Gundy stuff sometimes gets painted as, oh well, Brandon and Josh Hart got him fired, and I think to a degree those were the two prominent guys that people have reported on and talked about, and I think Josh has been open about it. Like you said, he lost his love for the game. It was way worse than that. It went deep. It was corrosive. There was players on the team, young players, that literally almost quit basketball because of the way things were going on. I don't think this organization or team would be in a better spot had they retained Stan. I am a big believer of that. Now, back to driving the conversation back to Willie, they needed that stabilizing force. Part of that was also, it's the same logic that they got CJ with. They needed that stabilizing force, right? CJ came in, hey, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. What's going on with Zion? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. And bing, bing, bop, things started trending upwards, right? They made the play-in. They made the playoffs. Zion was more available in that next season, took them to the number 1 seed, got hurt, unfortunately. Tough outcome there, but again, resilient, stable, increased their win total, made a play-in appearance again. Following year, 49 wins, had a playoffs. Zion gets hurt. Everywhere you look, it's Zion. Everywhere you look. If Zion was available to Willie Green for 65 to 70 games a year for all of his Willie Green's coaching years, they're probably in the playoffs every single year. They've probably, I don't want to say they've won a series, but they've at least made the playoffs every single year. And the way we're discussing Willie's tenure is far, far differently. So what Willie did was he provided a stabilizing force. I'm worried that now the lid, the things are bubbling over and you can't keep a lid on it anymore. And you're reverting back to the way things were pre-Willie. And that's why I'm pro making that change, trying to just head in that different direction. With regards to what this means for Griff is I don't think he fucked up the Willie hire. I don't. But I think that's a distinct question from should he get to make the next hire. And where I'm at with that is I think in a perfect world, if I was the owner of the team, I would love to start fresh. I would love to have an extensive search to bring in a new front office person with a new vision. I would interview people, have them tell me, what is your plan with Zion? What is your plan with all these other players? Pitch me on different things. And whatever they pitch me on, I'll take that best pitch, empower them to find a coach that meets their vision, empower them to create the roster the way they want to. We don't live in that ideal world. Right? Yeah, Mason, you got something?
I have a question for you on that. Do you trust the decision makers for this franchise to pick the best vision?
Oh no.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that one.
But what they do
Not at
is,
all.
but what they do is they bring in outside consultants. So when Griff was hired, Adam Silver provided them. I believe his name was Mike Ford, and he's been the NBA's like go-to guy when it comes to finding these things. And look, I challenged people to find me the billionaire who knows this up and coming executive in Toronto, or the up and coming executive in Denver, or whatever. Like, they don't fucking know these dudes. They really don't. They probably couldn't name you all 30 GMs. So like there's probably like one or two owners, like Cuban probably can name you all 30 GMs. Ishbia, maybe, right?
I'm not taking Gail. No offense. I'm not taking Gail on this. Not at all.
Exactly. So I think that's the reason, like, Adam Silver has guys like Mike Ford, and he provides them with these consultants. So, the ownership group with the Pelicans can make a decision based off of whatever the consultant information provides, and then you kind of work within your budget and decide what you want to do, blah, 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 blah. Let's set that aside. If I was the owner, if I had billions of dollars, I would take a great interest in this and then want to start fresh and do all these things. But I'm not. And what we have is the Pelicans ownership group. I think what we need to evaluate is, does making a change with David Griffin.
We all saw the same comment. Bring it up. Bring it up. We all saw the exact same comment. Bring it up. That is making me. Poe, you have made my night.
For the audio only listeners, our friend Poe Pacino comments that ownership group needs to hire Master P as a consultant.
The 2025 Pelicans, we bout it. I mean, we're already driving the tank, so might as well. You might be on to something, Poe.
Okay. Going back to Griffin, I think there was a really interesting book that I read. It's called The Drunkard's Walk, and the premise of that book is there's a lot of randomness that occurs in our life that we try to attribute a cause to, and we sometimes inaccurately attribute a cause to something that's happening. One example that they gave in that book was high-powered execs of movie studios. And they would be like, all right, when this person was an exec, they presided over these 15 movies that came out over the 2-year span, and the studio made XYZ billions of dollars, right? But then they went in a downturn for 2-3 years, decided, okay, we need to fire this exec, hire another exec, pay them $20-30 million a year, and then, oh, look, it's rising again. And what they found is, way more often than not, actually probably almost all the time, this stuff is just random. Who the head of the snake is often has very little impact on the things that actually drive change. When I say that, you can put the world's best GM in front of the Pelicans, and if their best players are going to get hurt every single year, we're going to be in the exact same spot. And I'm not saying this as a cop-out to Griff, right? I'm not saying he's absolved from the process and the decision-making issues that him and his team have had. Frankly, I think you can spread the blame around to the team. I don't think they're absolved in any sort of way. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think there's a clean answer to this in a way that many of us want, right? We want to fire the coach. Great. I want the best one. We want to fire the GM. I want the best one. And I think that is nice. I think it's very, very, very hard to accomplish. And a lot of things got to go right. And you got to be extremely lucky. So I'm saying all this to bring you back to with regards to Griff. I'm not going to hate it if they decide to let him run his contract out, right? It would have one more year on it. I do think you run the risk of, if you decide you're moving on from him, that after that year, and you've already moved on from Willie, you're now putting that new GM in a position where the coach predates them, and that never works out. We've never, ever, ever seen that work out. So I do think there's merit to getting rid of both if that's what your long-term plans are. I also think there's, people have mentioned Bryson here. I'm a big believer in Bryson Graham. I really am. I'm open to letting, if Griff's contract expires, just promoting Bryson. And I think a lot of people may have a bad reaction to that because, that's a lot of the issues that have caught the Saints in trouble. Like they just kind of promote from within. They don't look externally. They don't look to hire the best and the brightest. I really do think Bryson is going to be able to run an NBA team somewhere, if it's not here, to a very, very high level and have a lot of success. Obviously, we're all victims of who the players are going to be on the court, but I think Bryson has the chops. So I think that's one way to mitigate the coach predates the guy type of thing. But that's kind of where I'm at there.
I mean, your point around randomness, I mean, just look at Griff's last stint in Cleveland. I mean, how you won a title with LeBron. I mean, and he was well respected. And when Griff was hired, everyone was thrilled. I think, almost everyone. I can't think of someone at the time that I talked to was like, I don't know about this one. Most people seem pretty happy about it. And so,
especially when he brought on Trajan after that, like immediately after, like, oh, we got Griff and Trajan. Like Trajan was like, everyone was like, Trajan's the next guy. He's the guy that's gonna, be like the next smart GM, right? So I think that actually leads us to a very, very good point.
University praise when he brought on Swin Cash. Like the hindsight is 2020, but at the time, like, and I'm not being revisionist. Everyone thought this was like A+, no doubt hire. You're getting this, you get this, you're getting Zion, you're getting either Anthony Davis or the Anthony Davis trade package. Like everyone thought that this was a A+ hire with a wonderful future, and we're here talking about a 5-27 team.
Well, gets back to Schmidt's point about randomness. Like it's, who's to say if Griff is as good as the years in Cleveland or as, not as great in some of the years here in New Orleans. And so it's somewhere in between, right? That's probably the right answer, somewhere in between. But here we are.
Yeah, I think there's, you guys have led me to like another point that I think is pretty important in the way that we talked about Willie being brought on to stabilize the organization. Griff was very much brought on to do the same thing, right? Prior to Griff, the whole picture around the Pelicans as an organization was they're a football team headed by Mickey Loomis, and Dell Demps occasionally gets to make some decisions, right? And the ownership was cognizant of that image. The NBA was cognizant of that image, and they all wanted to get away from that. And Griff, in large part, was brought in to help change that image. Hey, this is your show now. We're going to get out of your hair. And they've gotten out of Griff's hair. You tell us what to do. We actually don't know what needs to happen to build an NBA organization. We don't know the things that need to happen. You tell us. And Griff, if there's one thing I could say about him with regards to what he's done to the organization, he has absolutely transformed it in a way that has brought it to the modern NBA, right? From a team that obviously started off playing in like rec gyms as their practice facilities and whatnot. He's built the organization, the scouting group, the analytics group, the health and performance group, all of these things. And it's not just those things. It's multiple different things. And I hope one day I can write about, what they've done. We'll see. But they've done this in a way to where if you fire Griff, the person inheriting that job, or if you have an external hire, is going to inherit the organization in such a better state than Griff inherited it. And I think that's not nothing. Does that mean you still keep the guy? I don't know, but I think it's something that you've got to consider. Is they needed an NBA guy to make this an NBA organization, and they have taken massive, massive strides in that regard.
And one last thing before we move on to the last topic. Ari is making some great points about, other people needing jobs and needing chances. And I'm not going to disagree with you one bit. I will say it goes back to the randomness, because if just under the Willie Green tenure, Zion has played 105 games. I don't know how many basketball people, head coaches can do anything when you have more wins than your star has games played. I don't know how far you're going to go. Willie's a 132 and 146 coach. He's had 105 games of Zion. Like, them's the breaks. I'm not saying that as a, oh my God, he, got a raw deal, this, that, and the third. Same with Griff, 190 games played. But it is a factor. It's part of the randomness. Like, if he does play, we're saying that this is probably saying a stable Indiana Pacers like organization where they're always going into the playoffs. They have a decent roster. This, that,
Yeah,
and
like
the
are
third.
you the Blazers, right? Where you're just making the
Yeah,
playoffs over and over again.
over and over again. You're not gonna be a
Like,
title team, but you're just consistently turning out 45 to 50 wins every year.
it's the same thing I want to reply to with Sky is like, yeah, man, it's not working, and I think the single biggest reason behind that is Zion. I really do, and we can go and litigate what they could have done with Zion. Should they have moved him way earlier? Should they have gotten that? But that's also a move where if you fuck up, that's your job. That's your job. Like if you move Zion before and then he takes off somewhere else, like you move to New York, you move him wherever, and he just turns into something else. Bye. You fucked
And
up.
every decision is, I fuck this up, I'm going. Like that's almost every decision they have to make. I mean, that's why they make these millions of dollars. So I'm not like my bleeding heart only goes so far, but I'm just we're trying to be rational, and there's a win.
I like this comment from our friend John here. John says, "Is there a way to move Griffin to an infrastructure advisor role? I would do that, but he likes to meddle a lot in the process, and I think that is pretty interesting." Hold on, this guy said, "I am repped by Bill Duffy." I'm not repped by anybody, sir. I'm not repped by anybody. Free agent. Y'all want to rep me? Come rep me. I ain't paying you a fucking dollar.
Let me say something right now,
Anyways,
and I'm willing to sell out too. I'm just letting you know right now. I'm not. Hey man, I'm in my mid-40s. I ain't got time. Ethics only goes so far. Anyway, let's go to the next topic.
Yeah. No. So Griffin, an infrastructure advisory role. Like I wouldn't hate the idea of an upward promotion. And gently, like that's how you detach the person from what they were with. I think that's kind of what they did with Alvin Gentry in Sacramento. They've like many organizations have done this in one way or another, where you just kind of promote them upward, you like oversee things, and then you hand the day-to-day control over to someone else. You might see this happen on the Saints in sometime. Breaking news. Yeah, no, I'm just joking. I'm joking. I don't know anything about the Saints. I don't even know when they play. Anyways. Look, I think it's tough. I think it's super tough to make any sort of decision on Zion. The biggest complaint that I've had in the Griff era is just inability to stick to a single cohesive plan. I think that is the biggest complaint. Like, I would have been fine with him trying to build a full team around Zion and failing catastrophically because Zion just isn't available. I would have been fine with that because I can be like, look, I understand what you're trying to do. You got him a stretch five. You got him shooters at every position. You did, X, Y, Z things. You got guys that are going to cover his defensive mistakes. I get it. But they've sort of, in my opinion, because maybe they just haven't done a good job of explaining their vision, but in my opinion they haven't had a vision. It's been reactive over and over and over again. It's, I see this issue, I'm gonna address it. Same thing with DeJounte. Whoa, we need a point guard, I'm gonna go get DeJounte. Right, we need toughness, I'm gonna go get Steven Adams. We need a coach that holds people accountable, I'm gonna go get Stan Van Gundy. And then you find yourself digging your way out of these mistakes because you were reactive rather than proactive in trying to pursue a larger goal. That is my biggest complaint of the David Griffin
Then you can leave it there,
era.
huh?
I guess
We can
leave it there. So I guess since we're reaching the hour mark, I'm going to ask for your predictions before we head out of here. Does Willie Green make it to All-Star break?
No. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately for him, no.
What? I don't think he survives the season. So I don't know how. I mean, What's the latest the team's fired a head coach in the season? I mean, that's probably around the mark, right?
That's a good question. That's a great trivia question. That's a great trivia question.
I mean, because like
if
if you get to, yeah,
first of all, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. I think that's absolutely true.
That's
absolutely true.
That's a good point.
Because like at some point you like it's so late in the year you just let the guy finish, right? So I feel like that All-Star break trade deadline mark is probably around the latest you see someone get fired. So I guess if it's gonna happen, it's got to be around then. So I'm gonna say like he's. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see him finishing the year.
I would say, since it's left up to me, is yes, he will be gone before All-Star break. And again, if I was in charge, homestand done tomorrow. Clean opportunity there. You have an off day. None of this getting on the plane, or maybe they are getting on the plane. Shit. They might be getting.
Hey, Willie, I know you wanted to warm up in Miami and all that, but come talk to me right quick.
The point I'm trying to make is they're gonna be home before that Wizards game, and I would try to get it done before the Wizards game, and then you can kind of start stacking your wins. Jose is gonna come back in the next couple of games. Zion's probably 3 to 4 games away. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in one of those Wizards games. You can start stacking those wins. Now, will people have an outcry of like, oh, well, of course you started winning. You have Zion. Whatever, man. People are going to complain. People are going to complain no matter what. You're not going to be able to please everybody. Can't worry about the optics. And one thing I think I would like to mention here is as I've asked around on this idea of like the ownership and their comfortability of firing 2 coaches midseason. I've asked around on this, and I've gotten a pretty resounding, they would absolutely do it if that is what needed to be done. Now, I don't know why we haven't hit that threshold. I really don't. But I've heard like it's like you talk about like, oh, like, are they going to have bad optics are they going to look like they're stupid firing 2 coaches? They don't care about those optics. You guys know they don't care about optics. Like look how long things have lasted in the Saints before like changes were made. Like they don't care, right? So it's not an optics thing. I think they would do it, and I tend to believe that. I think those type of, when I ask around those type of things, they come from very reliable people. And I tend to believe that. There's no reason, for it to be otherwise. Now, beats me why we haven't reached that threshold yet, because I'm there.
I will say this again. This is what I said this in the Discord a week or so ago. We are all passionate, wanting this team to win. I don't think any of us are as crazy as psychotic about winning as the people in that building. They really, 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 really want to win, and they will do whatever it takes to win games the way they want to. So if they feel that Willie is the reason why, he's going to be gone. Go ahead.
No, finish your thought, because I was going to comment.
No, I was going to comment. I was going to talk about the comments. It was it wasn't DEFCON 1 that took for Dennis Allen until it was.
So there's 2 things. There's 2 things I want to mention. This is a comment from F Funky. He said, "Any thoughts on Fletcher's report that this isn't DEFCON 1?" During the Stan Van Gundy thing, I remember hearing. I remember this very, very, very vividly. That summer, I was like, I kept on hearing whispers. Hey, like something's up. He might be gone. And I remember like kind of like reaching out, kind of tapping in others to reach out. I think there was a media collective that were reaching out to our various sources, and we're all kind of like getting like, no, not yet. Things are fine. It wasn't like a definitive like this isn't happening. It was like, oh, not yet. And then it happened, right?
Wasn't he fired like 3 weeks after? It wasn't even immediate. It was like 3 weeks after the rumbling started. It wasn't immediate.
Yeah. And so the language here is important. When first of all, Fletcher is very, very well connected at all levels of both organizations. Like Fletcher's very well connected. Secondly, the language is important. DEFCON 1 is not something they will ever want to advertise. No org's ever going to be like, we're on DEFCON 1. Like that's just like PR 101. Like that's like, if you're talking to a reporter, talking to media, you're never going to tell them your house is on fire. You're just not. I don't think that precludes them from being able to make a change. However, like you can be like, yeah, we're not any kind of DEF CON. We just needed to make this change, right? It's just. I think the phrasing of things is super important. You got to remember that, these orgs are, when they talk to media, they will be a little bit careful about how they phrase things, especially because if they were to tell Fletcher we are at DEF CON 1, like, what do you think like's going on with like Willie and his family and everything else, right? Like you just don't want to.
Is coming down here and badgering everything. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah, so you always downplay it until you got to do it. I think that's just the way you operate, and it's just how sports works.
Yep.
Hey, Mott Dog, let me make you really, really, really upset. Wouldn't the most Pelicans thing would be go 5-27 and end 39-43?
Don't you put that juju on me, bro.
No. Let's go. Let's get real grim. Let's get real grim.
Don't do that.
Zion comes back and everyone is saying what could have been.
No.
Let's get real grim.
No, I need them to lose to the Wizards twice.
No, not
twice.
Split it.
Twice.
I want them to split it.
Dylan Harper needs to be a Pelican next season.
39.
That's all I care about. Dylan
putting it
Harper.
on the record. 39-43. Remember the date. That's my New Year's prediction. 39-43 Pelicans. Not even 500. Just enough to tease you to think they can win.
Well, I'll just say, if you look at the standings, look, we're not even halfway into the season. Teams will punt and change direction and go full on tank. But right now, there are 5 teams that are considerably worse than everyone else. It's New Orleans, it's Utah, it's Charlotte, it's Toronto, and it's the Wizards. Even right now, I would argue the amount of tanking, Brooklyn's going to try. They're going to really try, but the amount of tanking it's going to take to get to that level is going to be aggressive. And so the Pelicans already have an advantage here from the tanking game, and their strength of schedule is going to be harder because they're in the West. So I think I would tell fans, when you see the Zion come back, when you see maybe good things happening with this New Orleans team, try to feel good about it. Don't just think about losses. And Schmidt's done. You guys have both done a great job on Twitter, on Blue Sky, basically just saying, look, the losses are coming, but good things are happening as these losses are coming, and so I'm happy. And so that's a fair way to think about it. But I think even if the wins come, and they will, and if they get enough healthy guys back, they have to. There's going to be a lot of there'd have to be a lot of bad stuff happening for the Pelicans not to be one of the 5 worst teams in the league this year. So whether they're 5 or they're 3, fine. But I think let's try to find joy in the good stuff that happens with some of the young talent as the season progresses.
Dominic, I wish I had the skills to make a WWE thumbnail, but if someone in the chat has the skills, please let us know. We'll take that stuff. And there was someone that, hold on, I gotta pull this up. Said, are y'all getting paid by this team trash? I don't understand that sentence, but I think what they're asking is, are we getting paid by this team? Jay, take it away.
Let me tell you something right now, bro. If I was getting paid for this, I think I may be kinder, because again, I'm willing to sell out. We're not making nothing from the team. Brother, I will come here with Pelicans glasses on if I was getting paid by this team. They gave me the shirt. This shirt was given to me at the game. This is not a consolation prize.
He spent money for it.
You know what I'm saying?
He paid the ticket.
No.
Ticket price for it.
I paid full ticket, preseason full ticket price to get that shirt. I wish. I'm going tomorrow. I wish this team was paying us.
I for one think this is a great idea, and I just did this, and the tankathon spin. And congratulations, Sacramento Kings! You jumped 7 spots and have the number 1 pick.
Oh no, get out of here!
I'm not kidding. No, I clicked once. Pelican Pelicans fell to 3.
You guys, between Jeremy wanting them to win 39 games and you getting
39
the
and
Kings in the
43.
please
40,
stop.
39 and 43. We doing this. We going the hard way, baby. Not even like the Heat. We going.
We got
under
Kings.
500.
We got Kings 1. We got Kings 1, Wizards 2, Pelicans 3. So Schmidt, you lost out on your top two to your 2-man draft.
Good God. There's a couple of things. Comments are still coming in, so we're gonna keep it rolling here for a second. John again, he says, I'll be surprised if you guys get media access after this pod, much less get paid by them. To be honest, John, they really do not care if you criticize them. They have never, ever come after me or my credentials or anyone that I know that has criticized them. They will absolutely come after your credentials if you repeatedly cross lines that shouldn't be crossed. And without getting into too much detail, they will also give you multiple opportunities to correct your behavior and change that. And if you refuse to do that and are pretty arrogant about it, then they will take your credentials away, and then you have yourself to blame. But that's the only thing I wanted to put there. But replying back to Sky here, why do y'all see they do good then? I think you go for it, Jay.
Have you seen Trey play these last 10 games? Like, I'm just being real. Like, I understand. I got friends of mine saying that these dudes are losers, and I get it because they're losing. One of them will say, no, they're not losers. Look at them. They're giving the whole college try. But, hey, man, have you seen how he has taken on ball responsibilities? How he's moving more without the basketball? How he's drawing more fouls? Have you seen, Eve still attacking, still getting blocks, still doing, playing above expectations. There are things you can see. Even DeJounte, as funny as he can be at times, he has 12 steals in the last 3 games. They still have a lot of deflections. They still have elements of the defense that Willie wants to play. It's still being played. It is not all bad. It's just a lot of bad. Not loud. The bad is really, really loud.
5 and 27 loud. Look, my comment on that is I think everyone's got their own way to watch basketball, right? Everyone's got their own, some folks really, really enjoy when people are overly critical and go super hard on the team. Some people really, really enjoy when folks refuse to be critical at all. Like, some people just don't want to hear the criticism. Some people just here for the laugh. Some people are here for analysis, whatever it may be. I think for me personally, it's not good for my mental health to just be like, oh, this team fucking sucks. This coach sucks. This GM sucks, blah, 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 blah. I'm far more interested in the problem solving aspect of it and discussing with my friends here, Mason and Jeremy, how these problems can potentially be solved. Obviously, none of us got any control because, like we said multiple times in this pod, if it was up to us, we would do things a certain way. So yeah, I mean, it's just what it is, man. It's just what it is. We like basketball. I don't think there's anything. Something severe would have to happen for me to stop watching basketball. I just love the sport, and when I watch it, I like watching good things happen on the court. So, like Jeremy said, Trey's been great. Misi's been great. I will take that and suffer through the rest.
And not just Pelicans basketball. Like, we started here talking about the Kings because we watched the end of that game. I watched the Kings-Lakers game last night. I enjoy the sport. It is fun. Even the bad, I can enjoy parts of Wizards games if you let me. Like, I just enjoy watching basketball. I enjoy talking to my friends who love watching basketball. And they decided to let me on the pod. And I've enjoyed this hour plus every week we had. So I can't sit in misery. That's why we laugh on this podcast despite all the struggles.
Man, there's already enough to be miserable about outside of basketball. I mean, like, let's be real.
Amen, brother.
So we have one request for the chat before I hand this over to Jeremy to take us home. It relates to Yves Misi, 3rd in Rookie of the Year odds currently. All y'all need to start a full-fledged social media campaign to get Yves Misi number 1 on Rookie of the Year. Just retweet any of his dunks. Start talking about it. Like if you're the type that has to like go trash another player, like I'm not gonna condone that. However, do what you gotta do on social media. Get this man in the national conversation. I know what Pelicans Twitter has been capable of when guys like Stephen A. Smith say like silly things, when JJ Redick said there's 12 of y'all. If y'all can respond to that kind of negativity, you guys can surely make Eve Misi a regular talking point on all these national podcasts and national shows and whatnot. That's your job. If I can assign you homework, that's what I got for y'all. So let's make it happen. Jay, take us home, man.
Hey, the reason why we didn't say last pod was the last of the year because we wanted to do this tonight. We wish it was under better conversation, but it is what it is. We appreciate it. We got up to 64 people watching y'all. We are from the bottom of our heart. We thank y'all. Just appreciate y'all grinding with us with this season. Get us up to 600 subscribers if you can. That's your other homework assignment. And we're gonna see y'all in 2025, man. Peace and love.
Happy New Year's.